Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess. Room still a mess. Fan on, because I'm upstairs and it's warm up here. Even though it's not super warm outside, it's starting to get real warm in here. I'm gonna be sweating this summer. So, ambient noise in the back. Also, you might see my lamp. That's a lamp. I tried to hide most of this mess on the desk. Whatever, we're here to talk about Pride and Prejudice. I did write notes, so maybe looking down at my little lappy. Pride and Prejudice. So I read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen for the first time in the year of our Lord 2026. You heard me correctly. Read it for the first time. Also watched 2 of the adaptations for the first time in 2026. I have many thoughts I tried to write down. My important ones I wouldn't forget. I'm going to start with my thoughts on the book and then going to the adaptations. I originally recorded a separate review right after I finished the book, but I've talked to people since then. I've watched the adaptations. I've thought about it. So I have different thoughts now. I will look at that footage and see if I want to put any of it in, but I do have some mentions of that here as well, like my initial thoughts. So we're going to go through that. I want you, viewer, to keep in mind, reading is subjective. These are my opinions. I'm going to repeat that. Reading is subjective. These are my opinions. And I will add no. I'm going to leave it there. Okay? Okay. So I think it's very important to remember that I am reading this in 2026. After reading a lot of other novels, other classics, other contemporary romances, historical romances, this is my first time reading this book in full. I have tried like 3 times prior and always DNF'd it around page 50. But this time, since it was for my read, watch, and review, I pushed through. Also, I had the audio, and I think that helped a lot. But I finished this book in its entirety this year. So I think that's important. I do believe, as a classic novel, I can understand why it is still so popular, why it is a classic. It's very accessible as far as classics go, and not all classics are very long, but a lot of them are. This one isn't super long. I think, again, the language is accessible. There's humor. The story is, although it's set in a different time, it's still things people can understand, relate to. So I think that makes it like why it's this timeless novel. So I totally get that. I do think I approached it wrong in my reading, because I've obviously known about Pride and Prejudice since, I don't know, forever. I've always heard about it and knew that it was a classic written, I think it's the Georgian era. But after being on the Bookternet for some time, starting with Bookstagram like 2016, so now it's been 10 years, now BookTube and very other social medias, I've heard a lot of people talk about Pride and Prejudice, both the book and the adaptations, and they talk about the romance aspect of it. I can't quote anyone and say that they explicitly said it was a romance novel, but I've definitely heard people talk about the romantic element of it, how swoony Mr. Darcy is, certain lines, oh my god, so, the original enemies to lovers, various things that I've heard, seen over my time on social media. And so I think going into it, I was expecting more of a romance story, and that was my bad. And so I'm acknowledging that, because it is not a romance. It is a classical novel, the Georgian era, that has a marriage plot, and which obviously, I don't know, I hesitate to say is a romantic subplot, because it's just not what romance of what I think of it, what we think of it today. So I went into that wrong. So yeah, I just heard of a lot of pining and longing and yearning, and especially for the adaptations. So that, going in with that mindset that I acknowledge is incorrect, led to a little disappointment. But even now, if I reflect and think about it not as a romance, if I'm thinking about it as a classic novel, I guess there's less disappointment, but it still was not a 5-star read for me. I won't make you wait to the end. This is not a book that I thought was overwhelmingly amazing, that I will want to reread, that is in my top favorite books of all time. That just isn't the truth for me. And it's possible that had I read it 10, 15, 20 years ago, it could have been, but where I am now, it just did not impact me that way. So that's unfortunate. But talking with friends, reading a few blogs, thinking about it, looking at the time period it's sitting in, or written in, I realized the error of going in thinking it was a romance story. But I think that out of classics I have read, this is one of the better ones. Again, I didn't expect there to be humor. I was really surprised by that. I did enjoy a lot of it, but then I feel like the middle really got bogged down for me with kind of the daily life. The audiobook did help a lot. I really liked the narrator and the different voices she did for characters. But like when I finished it, it wasn't like, oh my God, and I haven't continued to think about the book. I then watched the adaptation, so obviously that was present like in the front of my mind, but it's just none of them, I'm not going to be referring back to them or thinking and just always thinking about Lizzie Bennet or Mr. Darcy. It's nice to now be in the know, now having read the source material, also watch these adaptations and be able to understand references that people make and things, because of course there's a lot of books, movies that allude, quote, reinterpret, reimagine, Pride and Prejudice. So now I'm in the know, but it also doesn't make me like, oh my God, I want to dive into all of Jane Austen's work. And I think I may have, do I have Emma? Is that Jane Austen? I might own that. Might have unhauled it. I don't know. There's a lot of books behind me. So there's how I feel about the book. But I did enjoy really the first, I think like 30, I don't know the exact percentage, 30%, and the last 30, really like the introduction, and then obviously the drums that starts towards the end with Lydia and everything. But yeah, I did get bogged down in the middle, so the day in, day out of their life. But I also had thoughts once I finished the book. I remember messaging my friend Alyssa, who's a big Jane Austen buff, and talking about Mrs. Bennet and how crazy she was, and like Mr. Bennet and him being the better parent, and with a little chatting back and forth. And then again, looking at the time period, what was happening. I think reframe my thoughts on that. Now, Mrs. Bennet still, I think, and obviously I don't study Jane Austen, but it seems like she's written kind of like as an exaggeration, like she's so over the top. But Mr. Bennet really does kind of sit back, and he doesn't seem to have like his daughter's future in the front of his mind as much as Mrs. Bennet does. Like obviously, unfortunately in this time, since he has all girls, they can't inherit the estate, and so it's going to go to his creepy ass cousin, Mr. Collins, Lord have mercy. And so Mama is really worried about that, and she's trying to get these girls married, honey, from 15 to, is Jane 22? I think. She is like, get out there, get in the streets. You can see Lydia just run around town, Lord. And so I understand after thinking on it, Mrs. Bennet more, like that was like her presence of mind. She's like, well, you dying is not going to leave my daughters anything. They're going to be destitute and out on the street if I don't get them married to a man. But her character was something else. Very entertaining, but something else. But I think that, it's easy to think, oh, she's like overbearing and she's too much because, she's trying to get her children married, but also the father, you should care about this too, to try to leave your children in a better situation. So I did think a little bit differently about that. So I understand why the story has stood the test of time, and it's accessible. So I understand why it is a classic. Do I personally understand that's why like it's so beloved? No. Do I understand why so many people think Mr. Darcy is like swoon worthy? Also no. But there are worse classics I have read, so I would give this like a 3.5 stars. Okay. Hydrate. Okay, I watched 2 of the adaptations. The 2005 adaptation with Keira Knightley and I think it's Matthew McFadden. Unsure how you pronounce his last name. A whole gang of stars in that one. And then I also watched the 1995 BBC miniseries adaptation with Colin Firth. So, I'm just going to talk about them kind of interchangeably, and we'll try to make sure I refer to 2005 or 1995 so that you know. And so here are my notes. Some of the quick highlights of 2005. It is a movie, so it's like a nice, I think it's around 2 hours. Love that. And it was so fun to see familiar faces. Keira Knightley, Rosamund Pike, Jenna Malone, Carey Mulligan, Donald Sutherland, rest in peace, Dame Judi Dench, Penelope Wilton. I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, seeing all of those people. And it's very aesthetically pleasing to my eyeballs. Like, it's just a beautiful film. There's really some moments that were like, like it just looked very nice. Costuming, hair. Now, while that might not be the most historically accurate, I'm no historian, I really didn't look it up. I liked how everything looked in the 2005. The sets, the scenery, everything. And because who doesn't like pretty things? Now, also, 2005 has the amazing, relatable line of,
I'm 27 years old. I've no money and no prospects. I'm already a burden to my parents. And I'm frightened.
1990, that alone puts 2005 ahead for me. If you were wondering, 2005 was my favorite adaptation out of these 2. Like, that line right there by Charlotte Lucas, incredible. And so highlights of 1995, very book accurate. Like, I don't think they missed a single page. And I feel that if I had loved the book more, I would have loved the 1995 adaptation more, because it is very true to the text. Because normally if I love a book, it becomes adapted, I'm usually very critical. I'm like, they left this out, and they didn't feel like they left really anything out of this adaptation, honey. It was 6 50-minute episodes. And I was like, this is a lot. So I can understand why, if you really love the book, why some people's favorite is 1995. Also, it appears to be more historically accurate. I did a quick Google and it appears that it is. I didn't do too much research into it, so if that's wrong, you can tell me, whatever. But the sets, the dresses, the hair, they appear to be more historically accurate and so less pretty than 2005. And like, I'm so sorry, I have eyeballs, I like pretty things. What can I tell you? Anyway, I also think the acting, I think everyone did a great job. Like, reading the book, I think both Darcy's did a good job. I think both Mrs. Bennett's, Lizzie Bennet, everyone did a great job. But I don't know if the right word is, I feel like 1995, because you were with them for longer, obviously the actors had more time to really play their characters, and it was like, okay, oof, this is really, oh girl, you are Mrs. Bennet, my lord. In 1995, Mrs. Bennet, Lydia, Mr. Wickham, and goddamn Mr. Collins. I thought the 2005 Mr. Collins was creepy, and he was. But the 1995 Mr. Collins takes the cake. Oh, that fucking haircut and his little sniveling little, he was gross. He did a fantastic job. Fantastic job. Mrs. Bennet, Lord have mercy. Between her and Lydia, they had my blood pressure high, Lord. I was like, my word, Lydia was working my nerve, and Mrs. Bennet, oh, Mr. Bennet. I was like, girl, chill out. I think that especially Jane in the 1995 really gave, again, I think they did a great job in both, but like, just, you got to see more of them in the 1995, and it just like, they really felt like physical embodiments of the characters brought to life. So they they did a really great job. But unfortunately for me, I still found I didn't find Darcy swoon worthy at all. I feel like neither of the men, to my eyeballs, remember, this is my opinion, none of them were attractive. And the sideburns, gross. And so, while 1995 has more time, so there's more glances, there's more a brush of a hand, or what more of that, I still felt nothing. Like, I felt no tension betwixt them too. It's fun now to have watched them, so I know some of these lines, like you have bewitched me, mind, body, and soul and stuff. But watching it, I was like, yeah, you're giving me Darcy from the book, which gave me nothing, and so you're doing a great job. Not like the actors are nothing, but Darcy is just like, and then magically he's like, I love you. And again, I recognize the time period that this is set in, and I know it's not what we think of as contemporary romance, but I'm just saying, as me, and what makes me swoon, this does not do it. So it was fine. Now, will I rewatch any of these? I don't know. I don't think so, but it's entirely possible that I may, because originally I think 2005 would be something like cozy to have in the background, and again, it looks very nice to look up and see that, but I'm not like itching. Again, finishing the book and then going into the adaptations did not add to my desire to want to read or watch any more Jane Austen novels or adaptations. That's not to say that I won't. I may, but I didn't finish and have this love, this instant like curiosity to continue. But as a woman who reads literature, as part of the reading community, I felt it was long overdue to read that classic. Not like you have to read classics to be a reader. Not saying that. I said for me, I feel like it was long overdue. Because let me tell you something, I'm not going to read every goddamn classic. A lot of these things look dry as hell. But there are some that are on my list that I would either like to revisit because I read them or were supposed to read them in high school and maybe skim them / got the spark notes. Or I did read and I would like to read now with a fully developed brain. And then there's some where I'm like, I read Anna Karenina. I'm not reading War and Peace. Like, I'm just not doing it. I'm just not doing it. Am I kind of interested in The Count of Monte Cristo? Kind of, but goddamn, that's a long ass book. My word. Let me see if I missed anything in my notes. Okay, those were my thoughts, right? But I'm just gonna walk here. Okay, if for some reason you haven't read Pride and Prejudice and you don't know things that happen, you can leave now because I guess it's gonna be spoilers, but the book has been out for a while. You know what I'm saying? Let me tell you what. Reading the book and then watching 2005, but then watching it again with the 1995 I got angrier every time about Raggedy Wickham and Lydia and Mr. Collins. Like, I know that the foundational, the principal couple is Lizzie and Darcy, and then obviously Jane, Mr. Bingley. Let me take a little detour. Mr. Bingley's sisters, them bitches. Oh, and in the 1995, I wanted to snatch them hoes up. Why were they trifling? Oh, they made me mad. They made me so mad. Mr. Bingley, cute and goofy, whatever. Him and Jane, great. Back to Mr. Collins, and then Lydia and Wickham. Mr. Collins pissed me off to no end. He's just a sniveling, creepy, non-stop yapping mother. Shut up. Oh, my patron, Miss Catherine, Lady Catherine de Bourgh. Okay, we get it. And did you know that Lady Catherine de Bourgh invited me over? And Lady Catherine de Bourgh has 8 staircases. And Lady Catherine de Bourgh, whatever her fucking name is. I was like, oh my God, shut up. Like, God, he was insufferable. But again, like I said earlier, the 1995 Mr. Collins takes the cake. What a fucking creep. That actor, chef's kiss, amazing. When he asked Lizzie to marry him, when I listened to it in the audio, I was cackling. And then watching it, but especially in the 1995, that man said, oh, okay, you can say no, but it's fine. You one of them girls that, I gotta come back and I gotta ask again. That's okay. I'm diligent. I'm determined. I'm not giving up. And she's like, absolutely not. I don't want you. Like, oh, okay. wink, wink, you playing hard to get. I get it. I'll be back. Like, I understand again her mother's frustration and her turning down that marriage proposal, but shout out to her because ugh, yuck. And then little, what's her name? Charlotte Lucas. I mean, she got her right. She was 27. She didn't have no money. She was frightened. Now she got a man with some money. And I understand women then didn't have a lot of choices, but my God, my word, Mr. Collins, what? Lydia before Wickham was already annoying because she's just, oh, and the soldiers and the captains and their narrative and I'm like, your mama should not have you out here flouncing around like that. But again, mom wanted her to get married, but I was like, damn, 15. But again, different time. But Wickham, what a dastardly man. First he gonna lie on homeboy Darcy name and gonna say, oh, this what happened when that's not what happened. And then he gonna yap, chat up Lizzie, Lee, come back. And he already had tried to run off with Darcy, little sister who was 15. Now you done come back, talk bad on that man's name, lie, yap it up with Lizzie, get flirtatious, then you leave. Lydia go out to where they at. And then you gonna run off with another 15-year-old, you nasty man. You nasty, raggedy, broke-ass man, too. Because then you just running up debt all around town. And not the uncle having a pet. Lord have mercy. And here's Lydia. I've got a husband. I've got a husband. Like when she comes back to the house, of course her mother's like, oh, she's married. And she's like, please write to me. When will I see you next? And Lydia's like, oh, I won't have time for that. My sisters can write because they ain't got no man. I can't stand that, huh? I can't stand that. Oh. Because I know somebody's going to say something, I recognize that Lydia's 15 and this is a different time and people were getting married really young and it's really important because they're not going to have any money and she's trying to find somebody, but maybe and she doesn't know that he doesn't have any money and I recognize all those things and she also still was an insufferable character, okay? Yo, broke ass man. That's what you got, Lydia. Ooh. Ooh, Wickham. What a wicked man. So there was definitely entertainment, right? Everything in the beginning of setting up the story and finding about Mr. Collins and that marriage proposal, and then really everything finding out about Darcy convincing Bingley to leave and this Bingley sisters, all that mess, and then Lydia and Wickham. So it would definitely had some drums that was entertaining and things that really was working, really got my goat, really got my pressure high. So that's my thoughts. I don't think that, I mean, I don't know, is this a radical take for the internet to be like, it was okay? If it is, if you got all riled up, if I got your pressure high because I did not absolutely love the book or the adaptation, I need you to calm down, take a breath, and, you know, I don't know. Don't yell at me. It's just my opinion. My opinion does not change how you feel about them. If you think they're the best book ever written, the best adaptations ever made, I love that for you. I'm really happy for you. I just didn't happen to think that. So, that's it. Will I be reading any classics anytime soon? Not sure. Thank you for watching. Stay blessed, hydrated, moisturized, and sunscreen. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.